Great to see you. Hey, everybody. I am here. Dr. Avis here. How you doing? I had promised, if you'd seen me post earlier today, that I would go live tonight at about this time to talk about the current situation. Uh, and I thought that it was absolutely critical to do this because so much is happening. And I feel like there are, not even I feel like, I know that there are going to be reverberating effects from this. Um, Literally for decades. We're going to need a coordinated action and coordinated actions in order to meet this moment. And so I wanted to start this discussion tonight. I'm going to first start by saying that this is going to be the beginning of a conversation. It's not going to be the end of a conversation. Um, I'm calling this, it's going to get better, but it's going to get worse before it gets better, part one, meaning that this is something that I probably will have to address in several different lives with you, because honestly, it's too much to talk about probably just in one. But at least wanted to start with what we're facing right now. At least a part of what we're facing right now. Because the reality is that this has been a very hard year for us already. It is clear that from the very first days of this administration that Black people have been in the crosshairs. And since then, we know that, we've seen the data, particularly around Black women and unemployment, but we're also seeing Black men are catching it as well. So, we've been targeted, particularly those who are federal employees have been targeted for elimination. We've been targeted in terms of those who've had businesses that have relied on federal contracts have been targeted. We've been targeted with regards to those who are in the entire DEI space, targeted for elimination all the way around. And we are feeling those implications in many ways throughout our businesses and our jobs, or lack of thereof. Okay. But honestly, as the fall was coming around, I think for many of us, we were beginning to get our bearings. We were beginning to get comfortable with the idea of the pivots that we need to make, and had many of us begun the work of making those pivots. Yes. And then what happened last week happened last week. And I think in many ways, it's going to pull us back to the devastation that we felt at the beginning of the year, and honestly, likely beyond that. So I'm going to start by contextualizing why I believe that to be the case. What's happening really right now, what we know is happening right now in various different circumstances from this federal government. And I want to begin to the conversation around what we need to do around it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is not going to be, we're not going to be able to cover all of the things that really need to be said in one live, but I at least wanted to start the conversation tonight and continue the conversation with you over the next several days. Okay. So in terms of starting the conversation tonight, I want to start the conversation with just talking about what I believe is an imminent multi-generational threat that we're facing right now, and a huge cultural paradigm shift that we are experiencing in real time. Here's the reality. When Charlie Kirk was murdered, we've seen right now a canonization of him, a sort of, honestly, a very selective and I think purposely distorted narrative around what he stood for. And we've seen this sort of this push towards, creating this idealized image of who he was, whereas people are, getting fired, or even right before I came on, I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel just lost his show, suspended indefinitely for something that he said about Charlie Kirk. So that is what I just saw right before I came on. So we're seeing this throughout popular culture in that way. all the way down to everyday people, right? But I will say that the bigger thing that I think we need to really be concerned about right now is what that will mean, what that means, what canonizing him in that way normalizes, what it legitimizes, what it institutionalizes. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. What it canonizes in terms of holds up as being saintly, what it legitimizes, and what it institutionalizes. Let's be very clear about who and what this man was and what he espoused. This is not really about merely an issue around quote unquote free speech. This is not really about an issue of free debates and fair exchange of ideas. This is someone who subscribed openly to the Great Replacement Theory. Is there anybody here who knows what I'm talking about when I say the Great Replacement Theory? Okay. The Great Replacement Theory. The Great Replacement, you guys might recall in Trump's first term, very early on in his term, there was a group of white supremacists who protested at the University of Virginia, and they ultimately ended up killing a counter protester, ran over. You probably remember at the time, Trump got in a little bit of hot water because he argued there were good people on both sides. Remember that? Well, you might not remember what they were chanting when they were protesting, the white supremacists. Right. Yeah, the people with the tiki torches. They were saying Jews will not replace us. That's what they were chanting. So what did they mean by that? That is a reference to the Great Replacement Theory. And their idea, part of their white supremacist ideology, is that Jewish people fund opportunities for people of color to come into this nation or advance in this nation. And they're quite concerned that demographically, they are well on their way to becoming a minority in this nation. They believe that white people are being replaced. That's what the Great Replacement Theory references. The quote unquote replacement of the white race by non-whites in America. So the reality is, demographically speaking, they are well on their way of becoming, I would say generally speaking, let me restate that, America is well on its way of becoming a majority people of color nation. That's just a demographic reality. And white supremacists feel threatened by that, obviously, because they want to be in control. They want to be in the majority. They want to have the power. And so they believe that when and if the US gets to a place where it is no longer a majority white nation, they will lose their power. They will lose their ability to have access to, honestly, they will lose their white privilege. Let's just be real. That's what they're concerned about. So if you are wondering, many of you might be wondering, why do, for example, poor whites vote against their political interests to put someone in office that would cut off their Medicaid, right? That would undercut funding to their children's school, because Lord knows they can't afford private school, okay? That would do all these things that would make their life harder. Is because they understand that there is an intrinsic value in whiteness. And I want to always say that that is a key pillar in critical race theory, which is yet and again another reason why they don't want you to learn it. There is a huge intrinsic value associated with whiteness in America. And people who are both white supremacists and those, and oftentimes it's one and the same, who subscribe to the Great Replacement theory, understand this to be the case. And they want to protect it, protect whiteness, protect the privileges associated with whiteness, and protect white domination in the United States by any and every means necessary. That is what we are facing in this moment. That is why this battle that we are seeing and experiencing in this moment seems so just beyond the pale. They are flailing for their very existence in this nation from their perspective. They believe that there needs to be a white majority for them to be able to maintain their power. And just think about it. If that is the belief, then that explains a lot. I want to tick through a couple of things. Number one, there's been research that has shown that white people who hold racially intolerant views are more likely to indicate that they would prefer living in an autocratic system, living under a dictatorship over living in a democracy. Put a pin in that. That's an important point that I want you to remember. White people who hold racially intolerant views, and this survey was done among whites here in America, so let's be very specific. White people in America who hold racially intolerant views would prefer a dictatorship over a democracy in terms of form of government. I think it's important that we remember that, because one of the areas in which we are seeing right now that people on the left are trying to appeal to people around what's happening right now, which there is no way you can't look and see what's happening in this nation right now and cannot call a spade, and really be honest with the fact that we are, honestly, we're past the bounds of democracy at this moment. We are living through the transition to a full-blown autocracy in this moment. And there's a reason why. Think about it. If you believe that for the first time in generations, that the group that you identify with will no longer be the majority in the nation, then why? And you want to maintain power? Then why would you be willing to want to maintain a system in government that gives the majority the power if you no longer will be that majority? I want you to understand that people who subscribe to this Great Replacement theory don't give a damn about democracy. Do you hear me? I'm going to get to why this now. I should have started this at the very beginning. I'm going to get to in a minute about why all of this matters with regards to Black people and how we've been attacked in the workplace, with regards to Black people and how our businesses have been undercut and undermined. All of this works together with how Latinos have been targeted for not only deportation, but straight up racial profiling and harassment in that way. It all works together. If you think that you're going to make an argument around democracy that will change minds, the hearts and minds of people who subscribe to the Great Replacement theory, I want to tell you, you're wasting your breath. They don't give a damn about democracy. They don't want it. They want power, raw power, by any and every means necessary. That's one point. Next point I want you to understand is I want you to get a clear understanding of what Charlie Kirk's organization is. Okay. I want you to know about what that is. Prior to his death, his organization, well, first of all, let me tell you how it came about. Charlie Kirk was talent scouted. Think about it like that. He was talent scouted in the sense that he was participating in an event for young conservatives as a high schooler. That in this event, he got the opportunity to share his views. And apparently there was a very wealthy conservative who attended this event who decided he would give Charlie millions of dollars to start organizations in college campuses across the nation to help spread conservative ideology. He invested in him as a I guess you could say this was meant to be a retort or reaction to the Obama presidency. Because at that time, if you might recall, anyone old enough to remember when Barack Obama, especially when he initially won, everybody was talking about the rising American majority because he was able to pull together a coalition of people of color as well as a lot of young people, okay, to win. There was a lot of concern in the Republican ranks that they were about to lose young people for the next generation and several generations. And so they wanted to figure out how could they fight that. And so when Charlie Kirk was in essence talent scouted as a high schooler, all right, this rich conservative gave him millions of dollars to start Turning Point USA and to base it within chapters in colleges all across this country so that they could espouse, so that he could help to espouse and not only conservative ideology, but seek to expand the footprint of young conservatives throughout the nation. They have a right to do this, but I just want you to understand how it came to be, okay? As I said, at the time of his death, there were 900 chapters of Turning Point USA across the nation. My concern with Turning Point USA was that it was not merely some place where people were espousing conservative ideology. Believe it or not, at least prior to the rise of Trump, I actually had Republican friends. And the reason why I say I actually had Republican friends is because actually most of the people who were my friends and were Republican at the time ended up being never Trumpers, and many of them have left the Republican Party or are independents now. And so they no longer honestly identify as Republicans. But there was a time when, they were more, let me just say, Turning Point USA was not espousing traditional Republican ideology. Charlie Kirk was very much someone who was repeating white supremacist ideology in many, many ways. He was all of the things, right? Racist, homophobic, sexist, all of those types of tropes he would just sort of volley as part of his normal discourse. And so a lot of the quotes that you're hearing about now was how he was and what he espoused. I want us to think about the implications of that ideology on your opportunities. Once again, he was very bold about his belief that white people were being replaced. So he was a proponent of the Great Replacement Theory. He was the person who was making the case about every time he gets into a plane and he sees a black pilot, he gets nervous because he's assuming that this person isn't qualified to be there, that he's only there, quote unquote, because of DEI. This is the person that insulted Black women like Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, hurling that insult at her And let me just let you know, this is someone who himself doesn't even have a community college degree. He's like a community college dropout. Yet he's questioning, you know, all of these African Americans who are eminently more qualified than him to be in his space, to be in their respective professional spaces. I want you to understand that that is the ideology he was espousing in Turning Point USA. And I'm so frustrated with these. Well, anyway, I feel like there people are calling them out, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. But he would put that ideology inside a nice little neat Christian cloak that would make people think there was some moral substance to the message. And it's been very disturbing for me to see some Black folk out here who are Christian zone in on a couple of, verse sound bites you can find that of his, while ignoring all the various different ways in which he was insulting you, in which he was calling you stupid, in which he was calling you unqualified. And here's the thing: words matter. This is not merely an intellectual debate. When we're talking about spreading that vile ideology all across the United States in these college chapters with people who will one day graduate from those colleges, take positions, and then at some point be in decision-making positions where they are determining whether you or your children will have the opportunity that they deserve in order to have their professional dreams come true. That ideology is a cancer that shuts down opportunities, that undermines your authority, that undermines your credibility, that undermines your ability to go about the business of achieving the opportunities that you desire. Know that at the same time, we've seen, for example, all the statistics, everybody now I know has heard the statistics about 300,000 Black women being shut out of the workplace. There is an equal and opposite pull to that. I would argue that, if anything, Black women are being replaced. That is the great replacement that's going on by unqualified white men. You need to look no further than the cabinet of the President of the United States to see the type of unqualified ignorance that is now being pushed up to the highest realms of power in this nation. So why don't you think that would be happening at the corporate sphere? Why don't you think that would be happening in the decision-making around contracts, who gets this contract and who gets that one? It's the reinstitutionalization of unearned white privilege at every level. Understand what's happening here. You are being replaced. That is the goal. That is the goal. And as bad as it was to have 900 of these chapters, right after his death, his wife went on his podcast or whatever he has, made an appeal for more. And guess what? 32,000 applications were brought in for additional chapters in colleges across the nation. From 900 to 32,000. This is about the institutionalization of white supremacy. The institutionalization of white supremacist ideals, which will be followed by white supremacist actions. I am not trying to be hyperbolic here, but I see what's happening. I understand what's happening. And I'm here because we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared. And the way that we're prepared is not just to wait for doors to close and then be concerned because shit is shut off. Look at everything that's happening. Everything that's happening. The economic power of Black people right in this moment as I speak, and I've been talking about this from the very beginning of the year, is being surgically undermined. Surgically and strategically, it's been targeted and undermined. This is why you have these unemployment statistics that we've seen. This is why we are having the reality of Black businesses being completely gutted in real time. It is not an accident. This is a man-made economic disaster that we are living through as a result of this, with a goal of replacing you with the unearned privileges of those who are waiting to get access to the little bit that we had. Let's not even delude ourselves and say that we even ever got our fair share of government contracts. Let's not even delude ourselves and say that we ever even got our fair share of corporate appointments. We never got our fair share. Never. But this is what happens when the other side wants it all. There is no desire for fairness. There is really no desire for qualifications. I mean, honestly, how many more examples of that do we need? There's no desire. The whole issue about qualifications is complete and utter bullshit. You know it. I know it. And so here we are at a moment where, to the degree that it was difficult before, I want you to know that in the wake of Kirk's death, they have now become that much more emboldened to go out here and completely obliterate any and everything that was meant to even look like it would lead to fairness. Right now, they are on a warpath. I think you may have seen, and if you haven't, let me let you know that this administration has recently come out with the news that they're going to go after these leftist organizations because they're blaming them for Charlie's death. Let me just say, that's ridiculous. But they just want an excuse to go after them. And here's why you should care about that. Because while they have clearly done all that they can do to undermine DEI, affirmative action, undermine anything associated with making sure that Black businesses have access to government contracting opportunities, undermine the career trajectories of thousands of people in the federal workforce that are disproportionately made up of Black people and especially Black women. Okay, while they've done all that, I want you to know that you may have noticed that they have been losing in the courts. Certain cases they have been losing now. The Supreme Court have come back and saved their asses a few times, but there are some things that they are losing. How do you think that happens? Because there are still some organizations out there fighting for you. Guess which organizations they're going to target? Think about it. Guess which organizations they are going to target? Absolutely. ACLU is definitely going to be one of them. You better believe it. ACLU will be one of them. I guarantee you every last civil rights organization is going to be on the list. Every last one. Southern Poverty Law Center, I'm sure they're going to go after that. NAACP, BLM, absolutely all of them, Sasha. All of them. They are looking to, I guarantee you, completely obliterate the entire civil rights infrastructure. They've already mortally wounded it, I would argue, in many ways, because with the attack on DEI, what most people don't understand are the domino effects on it. Let me sort of break that down. The people that were impacted by attacks on DEI includes, but is not exclusively, DEI professionals. Well beyond DEI professionals have been any and every professional, number one, because one of the core tenets of DEI was this radical idea that when making hiring decisions, everybody should have a fucking fair chance to get the job. Perhaps you might want to make sure you are choosing from a diversified group of folk. Revolutionary. So, like, when that's no longer in place, do you really think people will be fair, or they'll go right back to the good old boys club that they used for, God, centuries prior to that, where you have completely unqualified people like what we're seeing right now in places of position, of high power and position? It don't have shit to do with qualifications. I'm telling you once again, it don't have shit to do with qualifications. This is about the solidification of Black. Let me say that again because I totally messed that up. This is about the solidification. Has absolutely nothing to do with qualifications. This is about the solidification of white male power in this nation. Got it out. That's what I was trying to say. Absolutely nothing to do with qualifications. It's about the solidification of white male power in this nation. And so what they're looking to do now that they have mortally wounded a lot of organizations by going after DEI, and in going after DEI, not only has it impacted the ability for people to get a fair shot when they're looking to get jobs or looking to get that promotion, it's also impacted a lot of nonprofits that relied on donations from major corporations just to be able to run. Because now those organizations are considering those nonprofits to be examples of DEI efforts, which they're now afraid to move forward and support. So a lot of these organizations that have fought for you for decades, fought for fairness in the workplace, fought for expansion of opportunities for Black businesses, fought for those things. A lot of those organizations now are honestly getting by on a fraction of the budget that they once had. And now that they've been wounded, what they're looking to do right now is completely undercut and dismantle them. I guarantee you. This is the next stage in their war. This is what we're facing. We're facing, on the one hand, the explosion of this white supremacist ideology by the explosion and the institutionalization of these Turning Point USA chapters throughout this nation that are going to produce an army of white supremacist thinkers. And while I'm here, I'm about to say something very controversial. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will. like I haven't already said things controversial. Listen, there is a wedge that's being created, and I think very intentionally, by the right in these institutions, where they're also targeting with disinformation Black immigrants in a way that seeks to put a wedge between them and African Americans by feeding them the racist ideology that is in alignment with white supremacy. I mean, this is insidious what we're facing right now. Now, obviously, you need to be safe and all that, and I'll probably do another live just on that tomorrow because that's a lot. When we talk about hate groups and what I predict we'll be seeing in the not too distant future. We're already seeing it, but what I'm saying in terms of an uptick in violent activity. But for now, let's just leave it on what I've said thus far because I've been spending a lot of time on this. Ooh, I've been on for a while. So let me just say this. And I'll continue this discussion tomorrow, but I will say this. Given what I've just shared, I'm expecting a greater institutionalization because it's being implanted in the minds of college students at a greater degree. There is no left analogous effort. There is no analogous effort on the left that is equipped at the same level of Turning Point USA, even before Charlie was murdered. But now, especially not. There isn't an equal and opposite balance to that. And beyond that, you are also having a federal government that is attacking universities writ large. So a lot of, and one of the ways in which they're attacking the universities is not just about threatening to take away funding and taking away funding. It's about they are forcing them, those who comply, to make changes even in their curriculum. Like they're forcing them to make changes in their curriculum. We already know they're attacking our history, like all of those things, because they're looking to do a major mass indoctrination of white supremacist ideology and ideals. How do you think you will fare in that environment? I just wanted to lay it all out here tonight. I think we just need to be real about what we are facing. Good question. Zakia asks, how will this impact D9 organizations on PWIs and MSI campuses and HBCUs? Good question. I will say that I would be concerned about their existence on PWIs, or I think that they would likely be fine on HBCUs. And to the degree that MSIs broadly, here's what I think. This administration is going to fund HBCUs to a greater degree than broader MSIs, minority serving institutions, like maybe, for example, institutions that are predominantly Latino serving, institutions that are predominantly Native American serving. I would expect this administration to really pull back a lot. Here's the difference. I believe that the overarching goal of this, obviously, we're talking about white supremacist ideology. So really what they want, once again, people will tell you, one thing I will say about Donald Trump, he tells you exactly what the fuck he means. Listen to him. Listen to him. I know it's hard. I know he sounds like he don't make no damn sense. I know he's not the most intelligent, knife in the drawer per se, but he will tell you exactly what he means. Take him literally. Take him literally. He's not smart enough to play three-dimensional chess. Take him literally. So when he is talking about make America great again, think about his perception of what great is. And if you didn't know, given everything that's been happening, you should have an idea of what they think was the great times. Because what they're looking to do, if you ask me, is to recreate a segregation era America, where you had Black people in their place. You had Black people doing the Black jobs. That man says what he means. So what I say all that to say, he's not going to want to eliminate HBCUs, and I think D9 will be fine on HBCUs, on HBCU campuses. On PWIs, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that I think they may be under threat there. If you're going to take this administration's argument to its greatest extent, and especially with regards to the pressure that they're putting on PWIs in terms of having anything that specifically focuses on students of color. So here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. We are in a space now where we are having this institutionalization of white supremacist ideology that is now being built in for generations. When you're talking about having that ideology spread in 32,000 chapters across colleges, universities, across this nation, what that's doing is it's infecting the minds of people who will be the leaders of tomorrow. This is not something that's going to end with the Trump administration. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. This is a multi-generational fight with multi-generational impacts. What we do now, honestly, what we're fighting for in this moment is not even for us anymore. What we're fighting for right now is for our children and our grandchildren. Do you hear me? What we're fighting for right now is not even for us anymore. It's for our grandchildren, our children, and our great-grandchildren. Because that is how deep this is. And this is what makes me so fucking frustrated about this last election, because we tried to tell people. And now look at where we are. Okay, so what does this mean for you as a professional, as a business owner? And I think the two intersect here, because I think the answer for one is the answer for the other. This has to be a moment where we work together as a Black community for our own and create our own economic institutions to take care of ourselves and our folk. From in every way imaginable, from our businesses to our banks to our ability to employ our own people. We have to our ability to fund our own causes, our own organizations, our own institutions, our own colleges and universities. We have to become much more disciplined around building our own economic power. The answer has got to be us coming together in very, very intentional and institutionalized ways. From the youngest stages, to me, we need Saturday academies. We need, I got knocked off of Instagram for a second. We need to be able to inform and teach our children our own history, as well as reading, writing, arithmetic, all those things. We need to be able to support our communities. We need to be able to make sure that our people have good jobs. But we need to, and what's at the foundation of all that, because all that takes money, we need to be able to grow super successful businesses. And when we grow businesses, the way that we make them super successful is that we need to buy from our own business owners. I've not been shy in telling y'all how much I love living here in National Harbor, Maryland. And part of the reasons why I love living here is because I get so much inspiration by walking out of my door every day and passing numerous Black businesses. Now, I have to be honest with you. I've been saddened also because several of them no longer exist. Some of my favorite ones that I used to go to no longer exist here anymore. And when I think about all the money that we have as a community that literally does not even stay in our community for an hour, we have got to do better. Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Sister is the owner of Mahogany Books. My favorite bookstore, Black-owned, incredible bookstore right here in National Harbor. We have got to be thoughtful and intentional about how we spend our money. If you don't like Jeff Bezos, go to Mahogany Books. Come on now. Hey, sis, hey. So I have to tell you, the time for fucking around is over. That time is over. These people are serious, y'all. I can't even express to you. This is an existential threat to our economic survival and our physical survival. I'll get into that tomorrow. But for tonight, I want you to understand we got to do some things differently. We've got to do things differently moving forward. We've got to make different decisions. We got to take different actions, and we have to make those different actions a consistent part of how we live our lives. So I really want you to understand that this is serious. These people are playing for keeps. They're going after our institutions. They're going after our babies, just our physical safety. They're going after your job. They're going after your business. What the fuck we got left? Let's see. Any group threatening your econ on survival is a threat to your life and well-being. You got that right, sis. You got that right. From YouTube, I'm getting any group threatening your economics, your economic survival is a threat to your life and well-being. Damn, skip it. Because how you gonna eat if you can't buy food? Especially with these people cutting food stamps or whatever you want to call it, food assistance. I mean, you just had some fool on Fox News the other day saying that homeless people should be involuntarily euthanized. I ain't joking, y'all. They really having these conversations. They really having these conversations. And then got the nerve to say left-wing people are terrorists. What? Involuntary euthanization is murder. Let's just call a thing, a spade, a reality, a reality. So I have to tell you, we got to think differently. We got to do differently. We have to act consistently. Period. Make intentional choices every day with how you spend your money. Make intentional choices every day about if you have a business, about how you grow it. Make intentional choices every day about who you have around you, what organizations you're supporting. I'm looking at buying land in Belize at this time. Every person needs to have a second location to go to. I think that's exactly true, Graychelle. I have a friend who, former client of mine and current client, she's working with me again, who lives in Belize. I also have another who just moved to Panama and actually is doing a training on how to relocate and look at other options in other countries. So Sable, I will tag her here after I finish so that you guys can get signed up for her training. But listen, I agree with that. Please, everybody, get your passports. If you don't have it, get one. If you have one, make sure it's current. If it's going to, thank you for tagging Sable for me. Listen, if you have one, make sure that it's more than 6 months away from expiring, because if it's less than 6 months away from expiring, it may be more difficult for you to leave in certain countries. Have it for your whole family, including your children. Seriously, all of this is going on. But for now, just know, get your passport before they don't let you. Absolutely. Get your passport ASAP before they don't. So absolutely, you got to be ready. And I would argue think about how can you make money anywhere? What kind of business can you develop that you can make money anywhere? The beautiful thing about what I do, I can live in Panama or Belize or Ghana or anywhere and still do what I do. Can you create a reality for yourself like that? If not, you need to, because it's one thing to live in another country. It's better if you are able to make your money out. If you don't want to have to move to another country and then try to find a job in that country. Let me just say it like that. Okay. You need to bring your money with you and bring your way of making money with you. Okay. So all that to say, thank you. Oh, okay. How long? Ramunda is saying, preach dog, we can make a difference with intention and our action. Absolutely. We don't have to wait for them for us to support each other. That ain't coming. Got that right. We know what to do and have the buying power to do. Oh my God, yes, we do. Indeed. We got plenty of money, y'all, when we use it collectively and intentionally. Our GDP is better than, golly, probably most European countries, honestly. The problem is that the minute it leaves our hands, then other people multiply it. I mean, unfortunately, that's the case. So listen, hang with me again tomorrow. I'm gonna try to go live here again tomorrow around the same time, and I want to talk about part 2 of this discussion. Okay, it's going to get worse before it gets better for what we're going to need to do next. One thing I will say that we need to do, honestly, right now, your one key thing. You are most welcome, dear. Your one key thing I want you all to think of is, how can I make money anywhere in the world? What can I do right now to make sure I'm bringing in money? Number 1. Number 2, how can I shift my buying habits such that I am consistently supporting Black businesses? Those 2 things I want you to think about. Okay? I want you to think about, how can you consistently support Black businesses? And trust and believe, we do everything. You just need to take the time to look. Okay? Trust and believe that. Okay? And then think about, okay, what do I need to do to not only have a business, but really grow it in a hugely successful way? Because what's really going to save us, you guys, is building businesses big enough so that we can employ other people. Because we're going to need to be able to be the purveyors of our own jobs. I just want y'all to know. Clearly, Tom, Dick, and unqualified Harry, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for those folks. Okay. But for us, we're going to need to be able to be in a position where we can employ our own. It's just really. So give a thought about that. I'm going to put a pin in this discussion. And tomorrow night, let's continue. Okay. I look to see you back here tomorrow night at 7 for part 2 of It's Going to Get Worse Before It Gets Better. But I know that we have within us the ability to actually come out of this much better. I mean, even better. What if we're able to grow something analogous to a modern day Black Wall Street reality all across this nation? What if we're able to really do that and protect it this time? All right. With that said, this has been good. Absolutely. You're right. Exactly. It is going to get better. It is going to get better. It is going to get better when we make the decision to do what we have to do to make it so. Hello. All right, everybody. It's been great talking to you tonight. I look forward to talking with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to go even deeper into the tangibles of what we need to do to make this ish right. All right. All right, everybody. Great seeing you. Good seeing you, my girl. Good seeing you. I am definitely going to get down to Black Wall Street. I love it. Hashtag Black Wall Street. We can do it. All right. All right, everybody. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye.